Hello everyone and welcome back to Foot Forecast, and in today's video I'm going to go through my Championship roundup, and there's only 3 games to cover because it was a catch-up week and it could have been 4, but Portsmouth-Ipswich was once again postponed, and that's really frustrating for the two fan bases and the sides because now they're going to have a more build-up of fixtures later in the season. I do think for Ipswich though, this probably wasn't the right time to have to go to Portsmouth. They've been very good recently and it's probably better to play them later in the season where they might not be performing as well. Anyway, let's get into the first game, which was between Hull and Watford, and it was the first game for Charlie Daniels taking over for Gracia. So starting off with the first game, which is between Sheffield United and Oxford they were actually decided to go 1-0 up in this game through Peter Harris. It's poor keeping from Michael Cooper. You expect better from him. He's one of the best keepers in the champ, so you'd expect him to do better because he can't just parry it back out to Peter Harris after the strike from Brannigan from outside the box. But Sheffield United did respond in this game through City pick just before half-time, which made it 1-0 after a great ball in by Al Blaster. This happened when Sheffield United was starting to have a bit of a spell of dominance. It was actually a great finish by Peck to make it 1-0. And then Gus Hamer almost scored a goal of the season for Sheffield United, but it hit the bar. It was an incredible strike. And it's a strike that you would only really expect from Gus Hamer to be able to do in the Championship. And that's the sort of quality that he has. And he's starting to get back into form is Gus Hamer. He actually had another strike from outside the box earlier, which went close. And he had a good game overall. Then actually Peter Harris had a chance to make it 2-1, but he needs to take this chance with his right foot and it resulted in it just going out for a goal kick. And then Andre Brooks made it 2-1 to Sheffield United. Great work to get past the Oxford defenders after a great pass by Tom Cannon to find them. Brooks was once again very good for Sheffield United and he's this sort of spark in that side. That's 3 goals from 3 games. Jamie Cumming actually got a hand to this, but he couldn't stop it going into the back of the net. And then finally, Ogbelne made it 3-1 to Sheffield United. And it was a great ball by Gus Hamer to find him. And then Ogbelne did the rest and finished it off to make it 3-1 to Sheffield United. And Sheffield United continue their good run of form at home. The standout players in this game for Sheffield United was Brooks, Peck and Hamer. I felt O'Hare could have been better in today's game. Considering how good he's been so far this season, I expected better from him. The concern for Sheffield United is Brooks had to go off the pitch. Now it's either cramp or it potentially looks like a muscle injury. I've seen a couple of websites reporting this as a muscle injury. Hopefully for Sheffield United's sake he is available because he's been really good recently, has Brooks. And right now, he's a key player for them. In terms of what this means for the table, Sheffield United are 15th place in the Championship, and they are 8 points behind Wrexham. I still think Sheffield United could make a push. Now, if you consider the fact that they've had a good window signing the likes of Calvin Phillips, and if Calvin Phillips can stay fit and start playing at a good level, then he is way better than the Championship. We've seen this, and I do think Calvin Phillips will be a good signing for Sheffield United. They are also 7 points clear of the relegation zone. I don't think that's too much of a worry. I think they're more looking up the table, and based off their transfer business, that's what they believe as well. For Oxford United are now 5 points behind Blackburn, who are in 21st place. It's pretty obvious, I think, to most people. Oxford are getting relegated to League One. So then we're on to Hull City at home to Watford. And it was the first game for Charlie Daniels as Watford interim manager, taking over from Gracia. And Imran Louza went close really early in this game, just outside the post. It was a really good ball from Ngakia. And Watford were definitely the better side in this first half. They had 63% of the ball and had 6 shots. And then it was a good strike from that Georgian fella. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name because it's very difficult to, from outside the box. It was a good save from Panda in goal for Hull, who's been really good recently. And there was more chances for Watford in this first half from set pieces, but they couldn't hit the target. Mifuni was the player with the 2 chances, the 17-year-old on debut, and overall he actually played quite well in this game. But Hull City probably had the biggest chance the first half, and it was through Charlie Hughes, but Selvik made a good save. It came from a set piece delivered by Joe Galtart. And what I would say about this for Watford is their line was way too high. And this was nearly the reason why they conceded from that set piece. And then into the second half, Imran Louza had the biggest chance of the game for Watford. A chance you'd expect them to put away, but he didn't, to put Watford 1-0 up. He put the ball wide after some great build-up play by Watford, and Petrus found him. Once again, Watford had more chances in the second half, but they couldn't test Panda enough. And this resulted in a 0-0 draw between Hull and Watford. My thoughts on the performance: I thought most of the Hull players were pretty average in this game. I thought Charlie Hughes was the standout player at centre-half today, made some crucial blocks throughout in that game. In terms of some standout performances for Watford, I thought Kiombe was good, I thought Mendy was good, and I thought Bowler were all good for Watford in today's game, and they were unlucky to not get anything from this game. Frustration for Charlie Daniels, but if you offered him a point for his first game in charge as interim away at Hull, considering the form they were on, I think he would have taken that, because Hull going into this game had won their last 4 games. And look, it wasn't a great performance at all by Hull City. It's still a decent point, at least they keep it ticking with a point. But I think Jakubovic will be disappointed by the fact that Hull only got a point in this game. What does this mean for the table? Well, Hull City are in 3rd place on 54 points. They're 4 points away from the automatics in Middlesbrough. And then they are 9 points clear of Derby, who are in 7th place. So they look right now pretty likely to get into the playoffs. For Watford, it's going to be interesting to see who the manager is that they appoint, or do they continue with Charlie Daniels. I'd be surprised if they decide to do that. So then finally, we've got Sheffield Wednesday at home to Blackburn. And the first thing to say is that this was a real low-quality affair, as you would expect. And this was Damian Johnson's first game as interim manager for Blackburn. And it was the perfect game to get started with at home to Wednesday. Ishmael had just been sacked as manager, and Blackburn got the early goal, and it was through Cashin after a good cross by Morishita. And after this, Murphy Cooper actually made a good save after a decent hit from Tronstad from outside of the box. Wednesday then actually had a big chance in the second half, and it was for an Ingleson long throw. Jamal Blow was the player with the big chance, but it was a good save by Toff in goal to deny him. And that was Wednesday's one shot of the game. Despite this though, Blackburn were causing issues for themselves. Blackburn then had a huge mix-up, which nearly resulted in Wednesday having a big chance, but the ball went out after a really good save at the other end by Murphy Cooper. Despite it not being convincing, Blackburn did end up winning. And I think it's fair to say most of Blackburn's performances were very average across the board. As you would expect, the Wednesday players also struggled, most of them very average or below par. Charlie McNeil was poor, Yates was poor, and Ingleson were poor. Murphy Cooper was good in goal for Sheffield Wednesday. He was the standout player for them, and he's actually been quite good in goal recently. For Blackburn, despite it being unconvincing, despite it being a very poor game to watch, it was a vital 3 points to them. If they have any chance of staying up, they're going to have to find ways to grind out games, because I really just don't think they have enough quality right now to stay in the division. But they are outside the relegation zone for now. Blackburn are in 21st place, ahead of West Brom on goal difference. Right now, though, I still think Blackburn will get relegated and Wednesday is guaranteed. There is no chance of Wednesday staying up, and everyone that knows this, they're literally on -7 points. Let me know your thoughts on this championship roundup as well as the games. Just to let you know about some videos I've got coming up. I've got my championship predictions coming out for game week 31. And I've also got a video where I'm going to be going through who I think will be promoted from the championship to the Premier League. And if you enjoyed this, it'd be great if you could subscribe to the channel as well as liking the video.